What's everyone saying? 112k here. I just recorded this video already. 30 minutes of my time gone down the drain because my mic was muted. But nevertheless, we're here to talk about the winners and the losers of the Premier League season. The season wrapping up, I thought it'd be cool to go over the teams who I think are winners, the teams who I think are losers, and just go from there really. So, starting right at the beginning, right at the top, Manchester City. Winners. Easily winners. Easily winners. Coming into this season, some good signings made in the summer, but the season started off a bit slow. The whole sort of strikerless thing that was going on was a bit odd. Definitely concerns there going into sort of December-ish time. But then, they just turned things around the way you expect Pep Guardiola to do. They have so much depth in the squad, and of course, with them winning the Carabao Cup, with them in the Champions League final and winning the Premier League, easily have to be winners. Number 2, Manchester United, the team I support, easily winners. Massive winners in my eyes, because to finish second place with a squad which doesn't have much depth, which still needs to be improved in certain areas in the starting lineup, easily winners. I think you look at some of the other teams in the Premier League, so many teams I feel like had much better transfer windows than us coming into the season, and yet we finished above the majority of them. Definitely winners. You look at the comparison between Ole and Arteta and Lampard coming into the season. People used to always have that sort of debate. Look at where Lampard is, look at where Arteta is right now. Ole easily sort of tops that, right? So definitely winners. I don't think there's many managers on earth who could have gotten more out of this squad in the Premier League. Of course, there was some silly results here and there, but you always sort of have that, right? So definitely winners for Manchester United. Number 3, Liverpool. Now look, I hate Liverpool. I don't like Liverpool whatsoever, but they have to be massive winners. The hugest of the hugest W's. How has the rest of the Premier League allowed Liverpool to get top 3? How? After the season they had when they started the season with Van Dijk and Gomez basically being out for the majority of the season, they look shocking. They genuinely look shocking. Mane had an off year. Trent for a lot of the season was having an off year. The midfield didn't look that phenomenal. Like, how on earth have they finished third? I don't have a clue. Klopp is a genius. The Liverpool fans kept their trust in Klopp, as you always should, and it paid off because they finished third. A massive W of a season for Liverpool. Big winners. 4th place, Chelsea. I wanted to give Chelsea, an L and call them losers, but I can't. I think, you look at the first half of their season with Frank Lampard, easily losers. Easily, arguably the biggest losers. You spend the most money out of any club in the Prem, and Lampard was just stinking up Chelsea. Just stinking it up. Yeah. They couldn't get anything going for them. And even though they have a bunch of losers in the squad, I still think, I think Timo Werner's a loser, you know what I mean? Like, people like that. I still think to finish top 4, Thomas Tuchel has turned the squad around. He's getting the best out of players who looked mediocre, people like Havertz, etc. And so, yeah, massive winners to finish top 4, especially on the final day in a dramatic way. Really cool. And of course, then a Champions League final as well, which does definitely help me see them as winners. So yeah, Chelsea, winners, just barely, not massive winners, not a huge dub like Liverpool or United or City, but just winners. Leicester's a weird one because I did want to give them losers. I did want to give Leicester losers, especially when you have a season or 2 seasons in a row where you bottle top 4 basically on the last day. I definitely wanted to give them losers because of that alone. Even with the FA Cup win, I did just sort of feel like, how do you bottle top 4? But I'm going to give them winners, because when you actually look at Leicester's season, they had so many stretches where key players were missing, where key players were injured. Loads of stretches when Ndidi was out, when Vardy was out, when Maddison was out. You have key players just missing so many games that it didn't really ever feel like they had a long stretch where they had the full sort of healthy team. And of course, many teams in the Prem didn't have that as well, to be fair. So, maybe that's not a good enough excuse. But to me, I just feel like it'd be a bit harsh. I think Leicester are definitely progressing. Shout out to Brendan Rodgers. He did a great job, especially for them to win the FA Cup as well. But yeah, I'm going to give Leicester winners. I think Leicester are just winners. Just winners. If this was to happen again, if they were to do this exact same thing again in the Premier League where they bottle top 4, then I'd just call them losers, because then there's like no progression there, whatever. But yeah, for now, Leicester, a tiny win. Number 6 though, West Ham, massive dub. West Ham, massive winners. To get top 6, to get into the Europa League, absolutely massive winners. I did an event for West Ham earlier this year to do with a collaboration with Fortnite. It was like the Hammers Cup in Fortnite, and I casted it. When I casted it, I said, West Ham are the biggest club in London. And I still feel that way. Everybody else, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham fans, be mad, be pissed off. I don't care. West Ham, up the irons, up the hammers. Brilliant season. David Moyes, manager of the season. What a phenomenal season for West Ham. Absolutely big dub. Number 7 though. Stinky Tottenham Hotspurs, massive losers. And I hate to be so harsh to Spurs. I do. I don't really like being harsh to a lot of teams because, you know, at the end of the day, as long as the team plays good football and I enjoy to watch it, you know, that's all I really care about. But Tottenham have been stinky this season. It's really sad to see how Tottenham has sort of fallen when you look at the early stages of the season, and there were, you know, many Tottenham fans who were hyping them up as being a team who could potentially win the league. You know, they thought Jose was going to get them into a title race. You know, I was seeing so much Tottenham just propaganda, so many Tottenham fans just being so overreactionary, so unrealistic, and look where we are. 7th place, playing in the Europa Conference League. That's just a howler. Europa Conference League. Come on, man, do me a favor. Harry Kane looks like he might even be leaving the club. Considering that, you know, you have Jose Mourinho, you know, you end up sacking him throughout the season. You have a decent window where you bring in, you know, some reinforcements, you bring in some decent players. I thought Tottenham had a better window than Manchester United. I thought Tottenham had one of the better windows in the Prem. And yeah, to finish in 7th, stinky, absolutely stinky. And similar stuff for number 8, Arsenal FC, not good enough. I'm not even going to really try banter Arsenal too much. It is not good enough. 8th, Arteta. Yeah, Arteta's had an absolute nightmare this season. And the biggest issue I have with Arsenal, and you know, I heard Rory and all them men talking about on the kickoff, and it was a really interesting question that I think a lot of you should think about, especially if you're an Arsenal fan. How do you fix this team? What do you do to fix Arsenal? You know, there's so many things wrong with Arsenal when it comes down to the owners, the management, you know, the players in a lot of ways, like mentality, you know, there's so much just wrong that, like, you know, it's so hard, because I don't think sacking Arteta is going to help. What manager is going to come in and do a significantly better job with this team and the circumstances around Arsenal? No, you know, the owners are screwing you know, Kroenke out and whatnot. You know, certain players just, and I thought Arsenal had a decent window. You bring in Gabriel, who looked like a good signing. You bring in obviously Thomas Partey, which I think was a great signing. You know, you loan in Odegaard. Willian was a stinker, but regardless, you know, Arsenal are always going to be in for players like Willian and that on freeze and whatnot. But yeah, really stinky season for Arsenal. Who knows what the future looks like for them, but it isn't looking good. On to number 9 though. Absolutely massive though. I need more explosions. Pow, boom, 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 pow. Dubski, absolute dubski for Leeds United. Once again, though, Leeds United, massive dub. Huge winners. What a season they've had. To finish top half in their first season in the Prem in how long? I love everything about Leeds United Football Club right now. Of course, you know, they are rivals to United and whatnot, but, you know, you got to appreciate greatness where it exists, because they have a fantastic manager. Their owners seem like they really care about the club, and, you know, they look like they're willing to invest in the club and the team. You know, you have great players with great work rate. You have talent like Patrick Bamford, Rafinha, who just look like they're going to be fantastic players in the Prem for years to come. You know, finishing top half, I really can see Leeds with the right investment and the right recruitment in the next couple of years challenging for European football, challenging even for top 4 if they can get the right pieces together. So huge dub for Leeds United. Can't wait to see them. One of the most entertaining teams to watch in the Premier League this season, easily. Number 10, this is going to have to be an L, and that's going to have to be big Carlo Ancelotti and Everton. L. Just has to be an L. Everton have been a disappointment. When you look at the transfer window they had, I thought Everton were another one of the teams that had one of the better transfer windows. You bring in Allen, you bring in Decore, you bring in Ben Godfrey, you bring in James Rodriguez, and it looks like, you know, you're finally starting to get things together. You know, you have Carlo Ancelotti, the board and the club seem to be, you know, really backing him and supporting him. Can't get the results. At the start of the season, DCL had a long stretch where he looked like one of the best strikers in the Premier League. And it really did look good for you at a certain point. You know, Everton definitely looked like a really good team near the beginning of the season. The things started to just sort of wilter away for them, and it just wasn't positive for a lot of the season. Really disappointing, especially for big Carlo Ancelotti. To see a legendary manager like Carlo Ancelotti, you know, sitting in 10th in the Premier League, not great. Big L, I'd say. I think definitely a big L. You definitely expect Everton to be challenging for European football this season, and they just didn't. Moving to number 11 though, I got a big W. For Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa have had a great season. You know, the season before last, you know, last season, obviously, they barely survived relegation, and coming into this season to finish 11th, I think is great for them. great progress. I think they had some great signings in the summer. You know, the likes of Ollie Watkins, Matty Cash and Emiliano Martinez, I think were great signings, brilliant recruitment on their behalf. And, you know, really just investing in Dean Smith. And I think Dean Smith is a good manager. I think they have some great talent, right? The likes of Jack Grealish and Ollie Watkins, who I've already mentioned. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they if they can keep a hold of the talent they have. You know, it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of moving forward for some of the players. But regardless, great progress from Aston Villa. You know, really great progress. To finish 11th, I think, is a dub. And so, yeah, they are winners. Looking at number 12, though, Newcastle. It's really a difficult one for Newcastle. I don't know whether to give them winners or losers, because I think Newcastle finishing 12th is the expectation. I think they have met expectation. I think most people would have expected them to come 12th this season, around that range. But the manner in which they did it, to be in a sort of a relegation battle for as long as they were, really doesn't help. And to be honest, I think I'm going to give them losers. I think it's an L, just because I think as long as Steve Bruce is the manager of Newcastle, I think that's just a losing situation. I don't think he's the man to progress the club. And for that, I'm going to give Newcastle losers. I feel fine with that. Looking at number 13, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves finishing 13th is a disappointment. Wolves are a team you expect to be challenging for European football in the way West Ham did this season, right? But for Wolves to be in the bottom half, that's an L, massive L. Obviously, Nuno's, you know, leaving the job now, so you guys are going to have another manager come in who hopefully can sort of progress the squad. Of course, I know, you know, Raul Jimenez had his injury, which, you know, meant that there was a lot of goals that were lacking. And who knows, if he stays healthy, maybe you guys have a much better season. But overall, just not good enough. I think this season's been a bit of an L for Wolves. And not like a, you know, not an astronomical L, but still quite a big L. So for that reason, Wolves are going to be in the loser section. Crystal Palace. I don't know what to think of Crystal Palace. I think they met expectations. You know, 14th, I think, is where you'd expect Crystal Palace to be. And I don't know. Roy Hodgson's obviously leaving the job. And maybe that's a W for you guys, because a new manager can come in and really sort of maybe progress this team forward. But overall, I don't know. I've just not been impressed by Crystal Palace, and I've not been disappointed. I think some of the talent, people like Eze, look really good. And you know, hopefully he can sort of develop into something a bit special. But overall, it's really hard. I think I'm going to put them in losers, just because it's not a phenomenal season. Nothing to excite me moving forward other than Roy Hodgson leaving the job, which I think opens up room for you guys to maybe bring in someone who can be the one to progress this team forward. Southampton in 15th, that's a loser. That's a loser right there. Disappointing from Southampton. I think you'd expect Southampton to finish top half. Ralph Hasenhüttl, I think, is a really good manager. I think he plays great football. And I think for a large amount of this season, Southampton did play really good football, and they did look like a team that could finish top half potentially. Or you would just expect them to. I feel like you just would expect them to. You know, they have some really good players, and, you know, I know Danny Ings has had his injury troubles throughout the season, and there's obviously areas that need to be sort of improved via recruitment with the squad. But overall, you'd expect the Saints to be doing just that bit better. And to finish 15th, I think, is a disappointing season for them. And so for that reason, Southampton are losers. Moving over to number 16, though, Brighton. Brighton, to me, are winners. And I'll tell you why. Obviously, to be 16th is really hard. You might think, how can you give a team in 16th winners? But I think Brighton, with Graham Potter, have played really good football. I think they have some talent on their team that looks like, you know, they can be really good Premier League players. The likes of Lamptey towards the start of the season really excited people. I think East Basuma has really excited people. I think people like Lewis Dunk has been one of the best English centre-backs in the world this season. And for that reason, to me, Brighton are winners. I think they play really good football. I'm looking forward to seeing how the squad progresses next season, assuming they can maybe keep a hold on to people like East Basuma and whatnot. But yeah. I'll give Brighton winners, not massive winners, because of course, you know, finishing that low in the table is never great. Being a bottom 5 team is always going to be hard to justify as being a winner, but to some degree, for them to survive and to play good football and to progress as a squad, I think is a dubski. So I'll give them that. Burnley, I'm going to give Burnley an L. I didn't have high expectations for Burnley, but at the same time, I didn't really expect them to be this low, to be in a relegation battle. And so for that reason, I'm going to give Burnley an L. I think Burnley have been losers this season. Still, Chris Wood, you know, Tarkowski, all them, you know, Sean Dyche, you know, we all laugh about Sean Dyche non-stop. I think the football's obviously not the prettiest, and the results haven't been either. So Burnley, losers to me. Fulham, Honestly, I thought Fulham was, it's hard because they've been relegated, so of course they are losers. You know, just by virtue of being relegated, of course they are losers. But I think it's fair to say that they play really good football. I do think Scott Parker's a really good manager, and I think he has a future in management. I'd love to see Scott Parker be like the manager of England or something, right? Because Scott Parker and Fulham, they've played good football this season. They just haven't had the talent necessarily for the majority of the season. I think if they would have got in some of the loans that they had in January a bit earlier, people like Josh Maja, I think if Josh Maja had come into the team a bit earlier, you know, people like that, I think they would have had a much better season. Enough to push them out of relegation, I don't know, but definitely a much better season. And so for that reason, they're losers, but, you know, tiny L and a couple dubs sprinkled in there. But by virtue of being relegated, they are just going to have to be losers. And a similar thing to be said for West Bromwich Albion in 19th. West Brom brought in big Sammy Allardyce to try get them out of relegation. Didn't work out. And so for that, yeah, just losers. Not much to say there, right? That's an L. Bottom of the table though, Sheffield United, the biggest losers in the whole Premier League. Yes, the biggest losers in the whole Premier League, coming bottom and really just claiming that bottom spot for themselves. Felt like they did really early on. How disappointing, man. It's a shame to see the Chris Wilder side just be so shocking for a lot of the season. And, you know, of course, my United team, we lost to them in a really embarrassing way. I don't want to focus on that. What I do want to focus on their season as a whole, which I think has been poor. And for that reason, Sheffield United are the biggest losers in the Prem. Let me know down in the comment section below, guys, who do you think have been the biggest winners of the Premier League season? Who do you think has been the biggest losers of the Premier League season? I'll be reading through the comments and replying to as many of them as possible. Thank you guys all for watching. Be sure to subscribe and like. See you guys all next time.